What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers Studio Series 86 Voyager class Autobot Blaster and Eject, which is pretty much a repaint and repack of the Transformers Kingdom figure, although I can't lie to you guys, I've always thought that mold to be an absolute banger. So to see this guy reissued, this time way more inspired by the actual 86 movie, he is looking pretty damn awesome. Although for a Studio Series figure, I definitely think there were some changes which maybe they could have made to the mold to better match what we did finally see on screen. But in his defense, he already is pretty much spot on to the actual on-screen render, and when it comes to an official blaster, is easily one of the best figures Hasbro have ever brought out. So as we check out the details, the head sculpt is looking awesome, although I would have loved to have seen maybe the twin cast sculpt slapped on this guy, you know, just so there was a bit of a difference mold-wise between this and the original, because with the exception of the paint deco, there really aren't too many differences at all, except one big change when it does come to molding. So this guy now no longer has any transparent components, which I am a big fan of. You know, not only does it 9 times out of 10 make the figures way more animation accurate, but it also increases their longevity. So it is pretty damn awesome to now see that cassette deck complete solid plastic, and when it comes to detail, I think he's looking awesome. You know, the paintwork which we have slapped over the top is a dead ringer for the actual blaster in G1, so that is pretty sick. And if we deploy this bad boy down, it also reveals some really nice details on the inside, which I am really liking. And to be fair, when it does come to the rest of the robot design, he is looking banging, although because he is technically the 4th release of this mold and Hasbro have more than made their money back on this guy, it would have been pretty interesting to have seen them maybe compress the kibble that we have on the side of the legs. Now, I don't mind these, I'm going to be honest, but for a Studio Series figure, a line which prides itself on accuracy, and because this is pretty much a repaint, it would have been interesting had maybe they compressed this here into the back of the leg, because besides this guy is pretty much spot on to the actual animation model. And as we spin him around here to the back, this is one clean, fresh Autobot. This guy's looking sharp when it comes to detail. There is literally next to no back kibble, and I'm also digging the battery sculpt, which I believe is a direct throwback to the original G1 toy. So when it does come to paintwork, definitely an improvement compared to the original accuracy wise, although when it comes to molding, unfortunately there are no changes at all, and I think had they made some subtle changes, then it easily would have made this a must-have, because as it stands, if you already own the original version, then to be honest guys, there really isn't much of a reason to pick this figure up. And to be honest, my thoughts kind of continue as we check out the accessories, which are the same as the original. So first up, we have the blaster, which, don't get me wrong, if something's not broken, why fix it? This is an amazing sculpt. But the second accessory is Eject. Now, we've seen this mold released so many times. It would have been amazing had Hasbro finally given us a new cassette minion, such as a Steeljaw. That would have been excellent, although I believe they have plans for that guy to come out in their Studio Series 86 core class subline, so I imagine we will see him eventually. Instead, they have literally answered the prayers of many collectors in the sense that he is now finally solid plastic. So alongside the cassette deck, you know, this is definitely one of the biggest draws, but is it a £35 draw? Honestly, guys, I'm not quite sure. But when it does come to detail, you know, there is no denying this does look to be an upgrade compared to the original. The details are way more sharp, you know, he's no longer literally holographic, and now you no longer run the risk of any of those ugly stress marks. And as we check out the robot mode, because this guy is super easy to transform, again, definitely an upgrade accuracy-wise compared to the original. You know, the paintwork they were able to cram into the head sculpt, I think is pretty damn impressive for a tiny dude. Although, as I mentioned, we've now seen this guy released alongside Blaster like 3-4 times now, so it definitely would have been interesting had maybe they spiced the color deco up drastically, or given us a brand new figure, or maybe even a firearms for this guy, you know, much like we've been seeing with both Frenzy and Rumble, where they come with tiny blasters. This guy definitely could have packed a punch had he also included one. So, checking out Blaster's articulation, this guy's a cool dude, so it makes sense for him to pull off some cool moves. So, to begin with, the head is on a ball joint. This can look up, it can look down, also can rotate side to side. The shoulders can rotate with no issue at all. They can then kick out to the side. There is a bicep cut, an elbow bend, no wrist rotation, although if you make use out of the transformation joint, you can totally make this guy look as if though he's clenching his fist, which I think is looking sick. When it comes here to the waist joint, this can rotate all the way around with no issue, and as we come around here to the back, you can then take a hold of the ass flap, and then in addition to him being able to kick forwards, he can also kick backwards to a pretty decent range. I mean, that is super dynamic. When it comes here to the outwards range, he's going to have no issues at all in issuing a fatal blow to Ravage's face. No way, 2 can play, which I think is pretty damn awesome. There is then a thigh cut, a knee bend, which can go to 90, and then finally for the ankles, he is packing a pretty deep range. So when it does come to articulation, you know, he's packing all of the basic points which we now expect from a modern Transformer. Transformer, but when it comes to the poses that you can get this guy into, he can begin to look straight up mental. So, as you guys all know, to see what Blaster is truly capable of, now let's put this guy through the pose test. So, checking out some robot mode comparisons, on the right hand side we have the Transformers Kingdom Blaster. Now when it comes to a recommendation, I'm going to put it this way: if you already own the original, then save your £35. Spend it on the amazing Cybertron Universe Starscream, because whilst I do think this is superior when it comes to paint apps, it's not £35 superior, you know, with the exception of the solid piece of plastic packed into the windshield. The differences really aren't all that noticeable, and because this guy is a Studio Series release, you know, it does retail more than your average Legacy Voyager. It would have been pretty cool had not only they given him a brand new cassette minion, but also to have given him those massive golden speakers which he did use in the actual G1 series. Seriously, I think that would have been pretty damn awesome. So, as I said, if you already own this, save your £35 and wait for this guy to go on clearance, because I definitely think that's where he's going to end up. Here he is stacked up alongside his communications nemesis. We have Netflix Soundwave, and unfortunately the 2020 Yellowing Plague is real. I mean, check out those thighs, those blasters on the forearms. This guy really is now looking like a hot mess. So that release of the upcoming leader Soundwave really couldn't come soon enough, although if rumours are to be true, much like Blaster, it does seem as if though it's going to be a repack of this mould, which if that is the case, that is going to suck ass, because whilst I think this is an amazing figure, it definitely has its inaccuracies, and with the leader price point, there is so much more which I would have loved to have seen done with this guy. One of those things being for him to be eye to eye with Blaster, because the poor old Earthrise Optimus Prime is slowly on his way out with the upcoming 86 Commander. Here we have Dead Optimus Prime. Next up, we have the banging Studio Series 86 Ironhide. Here we have his 86 movie Deluxe Companion. We've got Perceptor. Run, Blaster, save yourself. No way. Two can play. And then finally, the Legacy United Deluxe Class Hound, which is seriously a prime example of Hasbro reissuing the same figure twice, this time to just give us a slightly more Toon-inspired deco. So, to be honest, you know, all of the figures in his 5-pack, I would have loved to have seen released like that the first time round, and the same could be said here for Blaster, if so more than any of them, because, as I mentioned, the differences really aren't all that noticeable between this and the original release. So, transformation time for Blaster, and spoiler alert, this guy is a blast. So, spin around here to the back. For the first step, you are going to take this battery compartment, slide this here down, and then take the head sculpt and slide this inside. We can then snap this panel here back over. Then what you'll do is come around here to the front, take a hold of the fist, slide this here backwards until this softly rests into this port. So, snap that section in there. Then what you'll do is rotate here at the bicep, and there is a transformation hinge joint here. So, you are going to break this here outwards, and then this hollow component will literally slide over the top of the bicep. So just slide that there into place and literally do the same for this side. So take hold of that fist and slide this here all the way back like that, rotate here at the bicep, and then again rotate that forearm right over the top of the bicep exactly like that. Then for the next step, you can rotate at the waist until the front is now facing the back. So I thought that was kind of a cool step. And then as we flip back round here to the front, these are some steps which 9 times out of 10 I always forget to do. So grab a hold of these speakers, and these are going to reverse inside, exposing some pretty decent detail. Then what you'll do is take the toes and snap these here into place exactly like that. Then for the next step, we can come back round here to the back, grab a hold of this section, pull it forwards until it is roughly at this angle. Then what you'll do is take a hold of this panel here, slide this outwards, and on the inside is an additional panel. So also slide that section out. Now what we'll do is rotate here at the thigh, and that tab is going to slide into a slot on the underside of the forearm. Now this can be kind of challenging to line up perfectly, but once you get the knack of it, it should be pretty straightforward. So just snap that in there. Then what you'll do is come around here to the back, make sure that the fist slides inside this hollow cavity. So as you're bringing this up and over, just shoot that section in there. Then what you'll do is begin to line up this slot with a tab on the underside of this section. So that should slide in there with no issue at all. And pretty much do the same for this side. So slide this panel here out, grab a hold of this section, angle this here upwards, then you'll rotate here at the thigh. Once again, make sure that that tab lines up with that slot. So bring this here up and over, spin around here to the back, and again, slide that fist inside, exactly like this. Then we can spin back around here to the front, make sure that this does snap into place. Then we can take a hold of the skirt piece, snap this section down, and then spin around here to the back, grab a hold of the handlebars. These are going to pop up, and they're going to rotate forwards like that. So do the same here for this side, pop this up, and rotate it forwards, and then they will combine directly down the middle until everything is clipped into place. And bang, here we have Blaster fully transformed into his boombox mode. Now, this is seriously in my top 10 best mainline alt modes of all time. I think this thing is looking sick, although again, the reviewer inside of me wants to come out to play and say that literally none of the details we have on the front are actually accurate to the animation model, and that's because they're not. Blaster was way smoother in design compared to this guy, and because this is pretty much a lazy repaint and Hasbro haven't retooled anything, the way they've kind of gone about matching that is to just leave areas unpainted, which I seriously think makes things look worse than better. So, for example, instead of painting these dials, because they are absent on the animation model, they've just left them in a red plastic, which I don't think looks great at all. And to be fair, when it does come to paint in this mode, I think this is severely lacking in comparison to the original version. But there is no denying that when it comes to a mold, this thing looks banging. Literally, that big chunky robot can compress into a pretty streamlined boombox, which is even packing some really nice detail here on the underside. That battery compartment I think is such a great touch, and again, if you happen to have Eject or any of the additional minions, you can pop this cassette deck down, slap one of those bad boys inside, and begin blasting out some pretty banging tunes. So, checking out some boombox comparisons, on the right hand side we have the Transformers Kingdom Blaster. Now it is with this comparison that I can say without any doubt at all, if you already own the original, then save your £35 guys, go and spend it on that Cybertron Starscream. Even in this form, you know, despite this being the repaint of this, I still think the details on the original look way nicer in comparison to this guy. I mean, yes, they are going for animation accuracy, so they've left details unpainted to better reflect the animation model, but really and truly for a Studio Series figure, they should have completely refaced this so that sculpt wise it looks more accurate instead of just being lazy and leaving paint details off, because I think when it does come to this comparison, the original version is absolutely hands down the clear winner. Here is how he sizes up alongside his communications nemesis. We have Netflix Soundwave, who unfortunately has completely yellowed beyond repair. I mean, come on Hasbro, not only was this such an elusive release, but damn did this thing cost a pretty penny. To think that 4 years after its release it has yellowed this badly I think just sucks ass. And when it comes to size, again, I don't think it looks that great alongside Blaster, and even when it comes to design, you know, Blaster's boombox mode obliterates the cassette player mode here of Soundwave. I mean, it really is kind of gappy. I mean, it's not terrible, but it really isn't worthy of a leader class. So if that is what they are planning to reissue this guy as in the final wave of Legacy United figures, then that is really going to suck ass, because as I mentioned in the robot comparisons, I would much rather a full-blown brand new G1 Soundwave to pair alongside this pretty decent Blaster mold. And then finally, we have Blaster stacked up against his Run Blaster, Save Yourself, No Way, Two Can Play companions. So we have Perceptor fully transformed into the microscope mode. I don't think these scale too great, you know, this is a boombox, this is a microscope, but we're in the world of Transformers where cars can transform into talking robots. Honestly, if you can get past that, then I think you can get past the microscope being a little bigger in comparison to this boombox. And so, wrapping up on this review for the Transformers Studio Series Blaster, what an incredibly easy figure to not recommend unless you don't own the original Kingdom version, and even then, I would definitely advise you guys to kind of look into how much that original version is currently retailing for, because if it is cheaper than this Studio Series version, then I would definitely suggest to you guys to jump on it, because the differences really aren't all that noticeable with the exception of the cassette deck, and unless you are really after a solid eject, then seriously guys, stick with the Legacy version. Stick with the Transformers Kingdom version. There really is no reason to fork out the solid £35 price tag for this. You know, for a Studio Series budget, I really would have loved Hasbro to have at least retooled some components, especially when it came around to that boombox mode, so the details were a lot smoother to better match the actual show model. So yeah, unfortunately this doesn't get a recommendation from myself, but I would love to get your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of this Studio Series Blaster? I want to thank you all so much for watching, and until my next review, transform and roll out!